Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission is composed of volunteer citizens appointed by the City Council. The Commission is the designated hearing body for a range of land use applications, including general plan amendments, rezones, conditional use permits, and amendments to the zoning code. Upon recommendation by the Commission, general plan amendments, rezones, and zoning code amendments proceed forward to the Peoria City Council for final action. For conditional use permits, the Commission will make a final decision subject to appeal. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules for procedure requirements to allow an impartial and efficient hearing, and all Commission meetings are open to the public under the Arizona Open Meeting Law. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. Once called, City staff will give a presentation of the case, followed by a presentation from the applicant if they so desire. After the applicant's presentation, members of the public who have submitted a speaker's request form will be called to speak by the Commission Chair. The applicant may be called to provide additional information, clarification, or a rebuttal. The Commission will discuss the case, may ask additional questions, and take action. Any member of the public wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant at the end of the dais. When speaking, please limit your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes and try not to repeat statements already made by others. We welcome your comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation.
Good evening, Chair Waitman Powell. I would like to call our December 11, 2025 City of Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We have a little bit more of a fuller house today, so welcome to all of staff and residents. Before we get started, I do want to make a quick note that if there's anyone here today in the audience for the Treviso case, I think Treviso, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correct, case is at 95th and Happy Valley. That item has been moved to the January 8th, 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So it won't be heard tonight, but the city has updated the notifications for those items, and so we will presume business on that case on January 8th in the new year. Thank you all. Commissioners, let's start with a roll call. I know we have a few commissioners out. Vice Chair Fia-Senor.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Cottrell.
Present.
Commissioner Gaynor.
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Agia is out today, and then I know that Commissioner Fider is out today as well. I believe celebrating his lovely wife's birthday, and being married myself, our first service is definitely to our family. So congratulations to another year of life to them as they celebrate their wife and mother as well. This is the final call for speaker request forms. So if you would like to address the commission tonight, please fill out a speaker request form. We have a few at the entrance, and then if you already made it in and would not like to go to the entrance, you can go ahead and see Ms. Duffy here, she will wave, and she can give you one as well. We're going to go ahead and get started with our first item of business for tonight, which will be our consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine in nature, and they will be enacted in one motion. Our consent agenda will be item 1 and 2C, which is an absence, and then the minutes of the November 20th, 2025 meeting. Commissioners, could I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Properly moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Properly moved by Commissioner Cottrell and seconded by Vice Chair Fia-Senor. Commissioners, please vote. Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes unanimously. Well, let's get into our new business for the evening. We have item 3R, which will be Lone Mountain and 135th Avenue, which will be a rezone. Who will be presenting? All right, well, Mrs. Dirks, you take it away.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of commission. For those of you listening in the audience, my name is Sarah Dirks. Sorry. Hopefully you can hear me now. All right. For those of you listening in the audience, my name is Sarah Dirks. I am a senior planner with the City of Peoria, and I am the assigned reviewer for this case. Check. Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. Today I will be presenting item 3R. The case we have today is a rezoning application for Lone Mountain and 135th Avenue Planned Area Development, more commonly abbreviated as PAD. For context, if I abbreviate it, that's what a PAD stands for. The subject application was submitted by Tiffany Bosco on behalf of Shea Homes. Although Shea Homes is identified as the property owner, they have identified that they are partnering with other home builders on the eventual development of the project, which include Lennar and Toll Brothers. The applicant, Kurt Jones and Bill Lally, are with Tiffany Bosco. Kurt Jones is in the audience and will have a presentation that will be available for questions at the end of the presentation. What we have today is a rezoning application for approximately 280 acres of vacant land, and the request is submitted for a 655-lot single-family residential development. So more specifically, the request that we're looking at is a rezoning request from Suburban Ranch SR 43 to Planned Area Development. I'll get into the specific breakdown of what that planned area development is in a later slide. But just for context, a planned area development or a planned community development, they're somewhat interchangeable. The biggest difference is the size. Vistancia, for example, because it has more than 600 acres, it's considered a planned community development, whereas Trilogy West, which is a planned area development because it has less than 600 acres. So just to provide you context. So looking around in the surrounding areas, the property is currently vacant. This is primarily because the property was previously held by state land until it was auctioned last November, about a year ago, and it was recently released through state auction. The surrounding property is bounded by Lone Mountain Road to the north, and then single-family residential in Vistancia. To the east, you'll have more single-family residential in Vistancia and in Trilogy West. To the south, you have portions of Trilogy West and Dixoletta Drive alignment, which is followed by the Haciendas at White Peak and Hacienda 5 planned area developments. And then over to the west, you can kind of see on the screen in that purple dashed area is additional state land, which is currently vacant and will eventually come for auction in the future. A few things I want to add while looking at the area and the context of what is existing on the site is there is an existing hillside area. It's a little hard to see the orange dashed line on your screen. You might be able to see the shading area on your screen on the east side, just near Vistancia parcel A1. Kind of looks like a thumb sticking out of Trilogy. There's about a 6.5 acre hillside area that is protected on the property. And then there are two wash features that are located within the site. One is more of a major one and one is more minor, but those are highlighted in the dashed blue line. Other things to note is there is a future alignment for 135th Avenue, which is kind of bisecting the property, and it serves as the eastern property line for that southern section of the development. And then last, wanted to note that the property is located where regional connections will be coming through to eventually bring the site and the area to have connection to the city of Surprise and other areas within the region. So getting into the land use disposition, in review of the background of the site, I wanted to just highlight on a few historical items related to the property. The property was annexed in 1994. And then shortly after annexation, it received initial zoning of SR 43. Really what initial zoning is, it's kind of a holding zoning that is provided to a property when it comes into the city. It's a state requirement for it to match whatever is existing in the county or the previous zoning district or jurisdiction. But it really is just a holding zoning that is used until development occurs on the property and the site gets zoned. Over the last 25 years, the area surrounding the property has been developed or rezoned. So, for example, Vistancia was rezoned in 2001, being the first master planned area in that vicinity, and then later on, all the other subdivisions and planned area developments established, creating their own development standards. And then, as mentioned earlier, the most recent change to the site was that it was auctioned off for by the state land in 2024, making it available for development for the first time in 30 years. So there are two maps on the screen that I wanted to point out. Essentially, looking at the site, there are master planned areas surrounding the property. The site itself is divided into two land use categories. One of them being traditional residential, which allows for 2 to 5 dwelling units per acre, and then the other one being estate residential, which is the 0 to 2 dwelling units per acre classification. This traditional residential land use classification is on the majority of the site and mirrors the development patterns of the area just to the south of it. As far as zoning goes, zoning is the actual development standards that would apply to the property. The site is zone SR 43, and the surrounding areas, as mentioned, are primarily master planned areas, whether it be a planned area development or a planned community development. So, before we get into staff's analysis, I first want to orient you and give you a little bit of background on what the applicant's proposing to do should the zoning case go through. And just give you an idea of what they're looking at proposing. So this is a conceptual drawing of what the applicant is seeking to do. The development, as proposed, would be an ungated 655 lot single-family residential community. The proposed planned area development standards would require 90 acres of open space. That thumb that I had mentioned earlier is a little easier to see. The hillside area is about 6.5 acres and is expected to be protected on the property. And then there are two washes, as mentioned earlier. One of them is significant, has a larger flow, and would then require a wildlife corridor. So as you can see in that green shaded area, there's a wildlife corridor proposed with trails on both sides of the wash. There's a less significant, or a wash area that has less flows along the 135th Avenue alignment, which is proposed to be preserved as an open space area with a trail along it as well. Within the development, there is a proposal for 3 pocket parks strategically placed throughout the development to provide open space for residents. And then, as mentioned, it's ungated, so any neighboring property would have access to use those trails or access the wash corridors should they wish. In addition, there is a proposal for access points along Lone Mountain and Dixoletta Drive. Specifically, 2 points would be proposed along Lone Mountain to the north along the 135th alignment and the Westland alignment, and the second one, or the third one being along the Dixoletta alignment to the south. So through various conversations, the applicant group has coordinated with residents through public engagement and worked on creating design mitigation to try to come with a solution that would be appealing to residents and make sure that they were context sensitive. Part of their discussion had led them to create additional standards for land use buffers. So for context, in the single family residential area, residential homes can be built lot to lot. So most of you guys probably have a backyard which has a property line which abuts another property. Single family residential, they do not require landscape buffers between those lots. And they can extend to the property line. Within this particular development, as part of the zoning stipulations, the applicant is proposing to impose their own land use buffer to parcels 3 and 2, as seen on the screen. This land use buffer would apply to lots that are located on the border of Vistancia parcel G1 and Trilogy West parcel C48. So specifically what would be required with the development would be that the applicant would be required to have a 40-foot wide landscape buffer added to the southern property line in the red dashed line. In addition to the 20-foot that is already provided with Trilogy West, it would result in about 60 feet of landscape buffer between the two residential lots. And then on the west side, when you're looking at parcel 3, there would be a 30-foot buffer in addition to a 20-foot, resulting in a total of about 50 feet of landscape buffer. So this is a pretty generous buffer considering that single-family residential doesn't need a buffer, but they've worked it out in those specific areas and they've integrated it or will be integrating it into their development standards should this be approved. The second consideration that the applicant had worked with neighbors on was related to maximum building heights. So in single-family residential, the majority of developments are permitted to have a 30-foot building height allowance, which equates to about a 2-story house. Within this development, the applicant is proposing to add restrictions to that same area within parcel 3 and parcel 2, requiring that all homes located within 100 feet of that southern property line and that northwestern property line kind of shaded out in that red area would be required to have a maximum height of 1 story or 25 feet. So for context, recent design review applications that we've had, we've been seeing elevations up to about 23 feet. So that's kind of comparable to what a 1-story house would look like. And it's specific to identify 1 story and 25 feet. So now looking at staff's analysis on the actual property. As part of staff's analysis, our main role is to evaluate the land use types that are being proposed, the limitations that are being identified as part of the development standards for a planned area development, and then making an evaluation on what those standards are. When we evaluate projects, we can't really evaluate whether a product is for sale or for lease. We can't base our opinions on perception or what potentially could happen based on the type of people that might move in. And then we have to make sure that our decisions are based on code requirements rather than being arbitrary. So essentially, we're just proposing what is existing on the site, what can happen on the site, and how this proposal compares to what is already allowed or in that area. Another thing I want to hit on is that the authority of the case it's not a staff decision. It's also not a Planning and Zoning Commission decision. So ultimately, as a result of this meeting, as you guys are all aware, it's going to go to City Council, and City Council will ultimately be the ones to decide whether the zoning case is approved. Today, we're just really talking about the use and whether or not it's appropriate and making recommendations. So with that, I know this slide is something that everyone on the commission has seen a million times, and you guys are all very well aware of what Arizona State Land Department does and their mission, but just as a refresher, because I know that there are people in the audience who may not have had attended the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting or haven't had a lot of conversations related to state land, I just want to reiterate a few things related to state land. So the reason why I want to do this is because state land, this property was state land until last November, and state land is a large property owner within the city, and as more and more properties become developed in the city, it's important to know the mission of state land. So essentially, state land's mission is to manage land and resources to enhance the value of economic value and optimize economic return for 13 beneficiaries The original beneficiary for state land was K through 12 schools. Now there's 13 beneficiaries, but still K through 12 receives 90% of the revenues gained through the lease or sale of land. As mentioned, it's one of the largest landholders within the city of Peoria. To be exact, there's 24% of the land available within Peoria is currently held by state land. This area, it's not recreational, it's not an open space, or it's not a preserved area. The area will eventually be developed and will eventually be sold off. Typically, they wait to sell the land when it reaches its highest value, which tends to be when development is surrounding the property and utilities and roadways are already brought out to it, making it more valuable. Another thing to note is that the city does not, the ASLD works on their own behalf. They set the timing for their auctions, and they are a separate entity from the city. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware that the land will eventually be developed and that the city doesn't necessarily have a say of when those auctions come to fruition. So getting into the actual analysis on this particular site, I first want to touch on general plan land use conformance. So as mentioned earlier, the site has two different land use classifications. The first one, smaller portion, is estate residential, which is 0 to 2 dwelling units per acre. Within the general plan designation that's identified as estate residential, there is 1.7 dwelling units per acre proposed in the development. And then within the traditional residential area, which is that majority area, the darker yellow area, they're allowed to have 2.5 dwelling units per acre, and they're actually proposing about 2.6, which is on the lower end of the density allowance for the area. So with that, when you look at the development as a whole, the site is in conformance in both land use classifications. Throughout the discussion of the site, we've had a lot of conversations related to, okay, I get it, the site is in conformance when you look at the site overall, but how does it actually compare when you look at each parcel individually? So kind of going back, when you look at everything overall, there's 2.3 dwelling units per acre proposed throughout the 280 acres. But when you actually look at each individual parcel that is proposed in comparison to the developed preliminary plats in the surrounding area, the site is also in compliance with the density allowance for the area. So for context, that estate residential portion, it's at 1.8 for that one parcel. And then kind of looking through the development as you go around so for example, parcel 2, it's a little hard to see the numbers, but it's the one that is labeled as 3.8 dwelling units per acre in the center of the site, just to the east of 135th Avenue. It is at 3.8 dwelling units per acre, whereas if you look to the south in the Trilogy West area, there's a 4.3 dwelling units per acre density in that same traditional land use classification. So in comparison, even though parcel 2 is the most dense area within the proposed planned area development, it's actually less dense than what is existing just to the south of it. And then similarly, when you look over to the G1 parcel, which is the 3.5 dwelling units per acre, on the Vistancia side, it is neighboring two different parcels, parcels 3 and 4 that have 1.8 and 1.7 dwelling units per acre, which again is much lower than the surrounding area. So as a result, when looking at the individual parcel and also the development as a whole, the site is in conformance with the general plan land use classifications. And additionally, it's comparable with what is in the surrounding area, if not less than what's in the surrounding area. Okay, so now let's break down and look at the subzoning districts. So as referenced, they are the requests that we are looking at for the planned area development is for a master planned area, but essentially they're looking at 3 different sub-zoning districts, which have 3 different development standards within each district. So in the 3 districts, the smallest development standards are proposed in the LM1 subzone, which would have a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 45 feet. The larger subzone would be the LM3, which would require a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet and minimum lot width of 70 feet. As previously noted in the development summary, the applicant is proposing on imposing an added restriction on their development, which would restrict the building height on a couple of the parcels and to limit, or a couple of the lots within parcels 2 and 3, to limit the height to 1 story when it's on the border of those existing residential developments in Trilogy West and Vistancia. And then just kind of zooming out a little bit, I know this is harder to read, but I wanted to make sure to share a comparison of the development standards. The next step is part of the analysis is evaluating how those proposed development standards align with the adjacent development. So within the adjacent area, the smallest minimum lot size is just directly across the street from parcel 3, which is located in Vistancia Parcel 3, which has a minimum lot size of 3,400 square feet and a minimum lot width of 40. And then the largest development standard requirement is located in Parcel A1, which is located just to the east of the site, which has a minimum lot width of 60 feet and lot area of 10,000 square feet. All the other development standards, the largest lot width is 65 as a minimum requirement. But most of the other requirements kind of fall within that range between the 3,000 and 10,000, with the majority kind of falling around that 6,000 area. So when you look at the comparison of the development standards, the proposed lot width minimum of 45 feet width is actually more wider than the minimum lot requirement of the developments in both the half of Vistancia and then Trilogy West. And then the minimum lot area is also very comparable with the existing development. So next, looking at traffic and infrastructure. As mentioned earlier, I don't know if I hit on it fully, but this is a zoning case, which is an entitlement case, meaning we're really just looking at the development standards itself. The preliminary plat, the final layout of the development, will really be hashed out in a different application process subsequent to zoning. But we have seen some preliminary drawings of what they are proposing to do, and traffic has reviewed the plans based on the conceptual plan. Obviously, they'll have to continuously review the plans as the plans get more developed. But essentially, right now, the current plan is to have 2 intersections, as mentioned, off of Lone Mountain Road. One of them is potentially a signalized intersection off Westland Road. And then the second one being just an intersection off the 135th Avenue intersection. The development also contemplates a roundabout located along the 135th Avenue alignment, as you can see on your screen. And then in the purple circle. And then they also propose an alignment, signalized traffic intersection potentially at the Dixoletta Drive alignment. And then the site is also routed preliminary, I don't know why I'm struggling with that word today. They are also sent the review for water site development to look at it, and the site does have the available capacity to meet the needs for future residents should this site be developed. I didn't really hit on it, but I meant to identify that that second wash area along the 135th alignment That is not a protected or a required wildlife corridor or a wash that is needed to be preserved on the site because the flows are lower and they don't meet the threshold for desert land conservation overlay requirements to kick in. However, as part of the conceptual plan that the applicant has drawn out, they are seeking to maintain that area as open space. They're proposing to put a trail in and have that water still convey through the site. And that is part of the reason why the 135th Avenue is kind of changing the alignment to allow the water to flow through the site. So that is kind of an added change that the applicant has proposed, which adds more open space than what would typically be required. So next, onto the community outreach portion. I think this is the last title ahead for you guys to go through with me. But with any outreach or with any planned area development or rezoning process that is being created, the applicant is required to go through an outreach process. Whenever we receive applications, we send, or entitlement cases, we send notices to surrounding community partners such as the school district. This specific property is located in the PUSD boundary. Specifically, students would attend the Lake Pleasant Elementary School or Liberty High School. The city has not received any specific comments related to this project from the school district at this time. The applicant is also required to hold at least one neighborhood meeting. They held that meeting in June at the Vistancia Elementary School. There was a pretty large attendance at that meeting. It was an open house format, and there was approximately 93 people that went in and out during that hour and a half span. There was 37 comment cards that were provided to the applicant in response to that meeting, in addition to 5 emails that were sent after the meeting. Also note that the applicant hired an outreach team, so as a result, a lot of the correspondence that was had related to the case was directly received by the applicant's outreach team and captured within their citizen participation plan, which a lot of times we receive the comments directly, but in this case, there was a lot that went through them as well that we did not receive specifically. The main items that were kind of brought up during those meetings mirror the conversations that were also brought up with the city, mostly hitting on visibility from property lines, open space areas, wildlife corridors, and separation. So in addition to that, the city is required to do their own noticing requirements. So we send notice of applications and notice of hearings to all property owners within a required buffer, along with HOAs within 1 mile of the site. We also publish legal ads in the paper, and then the applicant is required to post a sign on the property. In addition to the actual legal requirements that we have related to the site, whenever we receive emails related to the case, we compile those comments, and then we create an interested party list and keep those residents updated when meetings occur. And so looking at the specific comments that were received, kind of just a summary of those, there were comments related to impact of views, school, construction, traffic volume, wildlife, open space, density, and setback. I'll kind of break down a little bit. I'll get into each of those comments more specifically on this slide. But essentially the first item, which was kind of a reoccurring theme, was related to impact of views. This comment was a little bit twofold. Some individuals were commenting more in respect to the fact that the state land was sold and that the property was getting developed. As noted before, it is state land's mission to develop and sell land. I'm not sorry to develop, but to sell land for development when it reaches its economic value for the benefit of state beneficiaries. So the land was never entitled for open space. So in that respect, the reason that property is getting developed is because it came to market for the first time in 30 years, and it now has ownership, which is seeking to develop it. But the other part related to impact reviews was more specifically related to the visual impact of buildings and how those buildings would look from residential lots. So as we discussed when looking at the development standards, 30 feet or 2 stories is pretty typical across all single-family residential. So current standards for what SR 43 currently allows would allow for 30 feet or 2 stories. So the applicant's proposal to provide an added restriction of 1 story mitigates some of the applicant's concerns, which go beyond what would typically be required if they were to develop as they currently are entitled to develop. And it also is generous compared to what is existing in the existing planned area development requirements. And then going further, looking at schools, as mentioned, and as Planning and Zoning Commission is well aware, schools, they're separate entities. Although we make them aware of applications, we don't always receive comments related to the school, and we can't necessarily base our decisions related to their responses. So I can't really speak to much of that. I do believe the applicant had some additional information that they had in their slide that they might want to talk about the school, but I personally don't have anything else related to the schools. And then the next item is related to construction. And this kind of gets to why the city received so many inquiries. There were a lot of inquiries related to the timing and the phasing of construction, when developments would start, whether there would be dust, and how the process would go. This, as mentioned, it's a zoning case, so we're pretty early on in the development stage. After the entitlement case is considered, if it is approved, then they would continue on to preliminary layout and then construction and building and what have you. So the applicant team was directed to handle most of the questions related to timing because it truly is the property owner's discretion as to when timing would occur. And then another item that was brought up often was related to traffic volumes. As brought up earlier, the site's in preliminary review. Our traffic reviewers have accepted the preliminary traffic analysis and will continue to evaluate the site as the plans progress. And then wildlife areas and open space, again, was brought up a lot in the conversation. Again, part of it had to do with the fact that state land was being developed, which again, it was not open space. It's been entitled for single-family residential for the past 30 years, and even then before it was annexed into the city, because the city acquired the existing zoning, which was single-family residential at the time, or allowed for residential development. And then density, we talked about that in depth already, but essentially when evaluating the density of the site and the surrounding areas, the property meets the general plan designation requirements for the overall development and within each of the 2 sections, and then by a parcel by parcel comparison, it's very comparable, if not less than the surrounding areas. And then the last item related to public comments is related to setback. And as mentioned, single-family residential is not required to have any separation between abutting single-family residential lots. But in this particular case, the applicant has imposed additional setback requirements to require, I think it was, what did I say, between 60 and 50 feet of separation between the G1 and C48 parcel. So that was a lot, but in summary, staff finds that the density of the proposed development, it aligns with the general plan, and it's consistent with what is in the surrounding area. The development standards that are proposed, they're sensitive to the fact, they're sensitive to comments and other design solutions that are not currently offered in the existing zoning designation or what could be developed on the site. The site integrates open space areas along the Wash and Hillside area, which aligns with the general plan policy and goals. And then if the rezoning were to be approved, it is not anticipated to have an inordinate impact on the adjacent properties. So with that, there are a couple actions that Planning and Zoning Commission is able to do in response to this presentation. They can recommend with modifications, recommend to deny, or recommend to continue this case. With that, staff recommends approval of item 3R to go to City Council subject to conditions of approval in Exhibit 1. So two things, the applicant is available. They have a presentation that they were hoping to give. Staff is available for questions, and I know there are a number of members in the audience who wish to speak as well after the applicant's presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Dirks, for that very effective presentation. It was very detailed, so thank you. We'll certainly give the applicant time. Before we get to the applicant, I want to know if the commissioners have any questions before the applicant comes before us. Commissioner Gaynor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to wait for the applicant. I do have some questions that I'm hoping the applicant can provide information on, and that way I'm not asking questions that are going to be repeated by the applicant. So, but I do have several. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Gaynor. I know that Commissioner Cottrell, he'll wait because he will have questions specifically for the applicant. I just have a quick point of clarification and clarification question. It said that at this moment, but PUSD was involved in possibly being able to give comment for review, and so we didn't hear anything from Liberty High School or Lake Pleasant Elementary at all, whether there's a capacity issue. I know that is something that I read within some of the resident comments, so did we receive anything from them, Deputy Director Deaver?
Madam Chair, we send communication directly to the administration for review and consideration. They are responsible for, as part of their mission, to look at capacity and student generation, et cetera. So we send it to the administration for consideration. We do not send it directly to the individual schools. The administration is more suited to handle the global conversation in terms of school capacity. That is their directive.
Okay. And just to clarify, we sent it out, but there was no comment or a response back.
Madam Chair, that is correct. City staff did not receive communication directly from PUSD.
Okay. Thank you, Planning Deputy Director Deaver. Yeah, I'm just wondering, being a mother myself, maybe they'll give comment once this gets to City Council, but that was my only question for clarification. What we'll do is we'll have the applicant come up, and I know that some commissioners will hold their questions and comments till then. Thank you. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Chair Whitman Powell, Kurt Jones, members of the Planning Commission. Kurt Jones with Tiffany and Bosco. I'm a senior planner there. We're at 2525 East Camelback Road in Phoenix, 85016. Here tonight representing Shea Homes, also indirectly representing Lennar and Toll Brothers with regards to the application in front of you this evening. Thanks to staff for that very comprehensive presentation. I'm going to sort of repeat some of that, but I'm going to stick to basically the general plan and our neighborhood outreach and not be as repetitive to what was already stated. Again, our rezoning is to a PAD. It is similar to the surrounding zonings that we're surrounded by with regards to the PCD. It's a similar zoning district, as well as the Trilogy PAD and the PAD that's directly south of us. With regards to the general plan, Sarah did mention that we are two different residential districts, an estate residential and a traditional. We are well below the densities allowed in those districts. And from the beginning, and I'll go to this next slide, which sort of zooms into the two residential categories, the light yellow and the darker yellow. But we have been from pre-app all the way to today basically showing a lotting plan, even though the lotting plan isn't a part of your zoning case. We wanted to be specifically transparent with what the goal was, is to develop a single-family neighborhood that is compatible and consistent with our surrounding properties. And so what we did was, in our pre-app, we actually included a lotting plan. This plan actually has changed several times, but this is one we did for the GP analysis that demonstrates that the GP allows for 1,180 units, if someone could fit that on this site. We're proposing approximately 655 as part of our PAD ask. I think the plat that we have submitted to the city is at 641 lots based on all the open space requirements and all the design changes that we've made. There's just a couple of the goals from the general plan. There's a lot more in the staff report and in our narrative, but basically the outline that I've highlighted in green is just to demonstrate that we've met the open space requirements and the goals and policies of your general plan with regard to the design of this plat. Also, the red is more of just sort of kind of highlighting that we've got a unique situation here where we've got 3 home builders, and your general plan basically states to provide a range of neighborhoods, and the bottom one says a mix of housing types. So we've got the sort of the trifecta there with 3 home builders building in with this one development. And Sarah touched on this, but this is within your general plan also, but the last sentence of that first long paragraph basically states that state land parcels are going to be transferred to private interests at some point for residential commercial employment. We're utilizing it for what the city's general plan states it should be used as. And basically anybody who's checked what state lands in your general plan means that it should be viewed as developable property. So again, a lot of these graphics are repetitive. I'll try not to stress too much on them. The graphic on the left was my sort of density graphic. I like staff's a lot better. But basically what we're demonstrating is that we are consistent and or lower. And I want to stress that from pre-app to today, everything Shay has brought in has been a lower density. It has always provided buffers, and it always had tried to work on 1/35th and the sensitivity that has to the neighborhoods around us. And so with that, you can see that basically our density is a lot lower. So we didn't come in and, our first blush was to overstack the site with residential density. We wanted to plan it. Shay built Trilogy, so they know the area, they know the land, and they designed it accordingly. And we've been transparent from the beginning that this has been our intention. Just to give before we get into the semantics of what's changed and sort of these final plans, and Sarah outlined sort of those buffers and those single-story provisions. But again, we started this back at the beginning of the year. We met with Councilman Bullock and Vistancia reps in March. The pre-app was prior to that. The pre-app had the lotting plan in it. The pre-app was obtained by the neighborhood at some point, and the neighborhood dispersed the lotting plan from the pre-app. So this case was being talked about before we even submitted it. Basically, we contacted a lot of those residents that we heard from prior to the open house. So we were already doing outreach before we did our open house. We sent out 1,231 letters to property owners so that everyone knew we were going to develop this site. On June 4th, we had our open house, and Sarah described what happened there. From June until now, we've basically been working with staff, the neighborhoods, responding to issues, and coming up with solutions on what those buffers were, where we can do the single-story option, what the makeup of 135th Avenue could develop out as. And so for those past 5 or 6 months, we've been working on those consistently and letting folks know. In those 5 months, the most we heard from were Trilogy residents, so we decided to go back and do another open house, and we did one at their clubhouse on November 24th, where we had about 65 attendees, and we walked through some of these changes that we made, and they really dealt with buffers. Let me get to the Desert Vista area. That's this graphic here, which is a close-up of our northwest side. We wanted to make sure our buffers were bigger than the buffers adjacent to us. That was one goal of ours. Their buffer is at about 25 feet in red there on the east side of their subdivision. Ours is at 31 feet. Also, in those rows of homes in yellow that are along our west property line where it says 31-foot buffer, we're going to stipulate those homes to be single-story. So those are for the Desert Vista residents. They showed up at the June 4th open house, and that was their main concern. And we have larger buffers along the south, but I think those were the less concerns with regards to buffers and single-story. This is the sort of the main graphic that Sarah touched on, and want to show you briefly that there's a 25-foot buffer already incorporated in the Trilogy West tract that's behind their homes. And so we're adding a larger buffer. The 41 feet, it's stipulated in the PAD to 40 feet, but since we have a plat in now, those two lots that are at the bend in that road are approximately 41 feet from our property line. The lots that are further to the west, they're approximately 45 feet. And those are all hard lined in the plat already, but the minimum is showing up in the PAD is 40. We're going to commit to the 41 feet, and we're going to commit to the 45 feet for the rest of those lots. So that gives you a 65-foot plus buffer between the backs of walls to the Trilogy lots and our walls. We have some greater buffers. I think that the key to this is if you look at the land plan and Trilogy from the east over to the west, they've got a cul-de-sac sort of coming up on the east end with lots on it. Well, we have a cul-de-sac coming down with our side lots showing up on it. So we didn't really stack our lots along the south boundary. We utilized open spaces similar to the way they designed their site. They have a large amenity center there where it says a 65-foot buffer, Shay. That's a large amenity center that they have. And there's also, and so we basically have an open space and a cul-de-sac adjacent to that. We have a very large, as you keep going west, a very large open space that handles drainage, handles open space. We have a 35% requirement for passive, active, and natural open space. So we put it in spots that were beneficial to our adjacent neighbors. And then you have the row of lots. As you can see, the row of lots on the Trilogy side along the entire north side of Montesoro. I'm not sure the number of lots. Let's just say it's approximately 20 lots. We did not align our lots that we aligned on our south property line with theirs. We offset it further to the west. We're committing to every lot that backs to a lot, and it's approximately 7 lots there on the Trilogy West side, that we'll do a single story on those lots that directly back to it. That equates to about 7 or 8 lots on our property. So we want to just commit to those as part of and we put those in our PAD standard booklets. You may hear tonight, and we've gotten some emails post that November 24th meeting, where there's a request along, let me go back to the big graphic here, along the entire west side of the 135th Street, 35th Avenue alignment. We received some more requests for single story along our eastern side of our development, basically directly west of the 135th Ave alignment. And we haven't made those changes. I wanted to demonstrate that our graphic here shows that there's approximately 150 feet of distance between the back walls of the Trilogy folks that are facing west across 135th Avenue. So we've got a 150-foot buffer, and then we have another 15 feet before you get to the actual back of the home. So you have a 165-foot buffer. A single story stipulation on that doesn't make much sense since it's a max of 25 feet for the single story, and that we're only asking for 30 feet for single story. When you get to that distance, we believe, and it might not be agreeable to the neighbors, but we believe you can't discern between the 25 feet and the 30 feet at that point. So we haven't made any changes to our plan along our eastern boundary. This is the graphic that Sarah showed, that it shows where the single story homes, if there's in our plat, if there's a single story, if there's a lot anywhere in those red areas, it demonstrates what the minimum buffers are and where the single story homes need to be. And so that's a part of our PAD submittal also. And then the 135th Avenue design. This was something that we spent some time with city staff on. We're going to build 135th Avenue. If I go back and show you where it is in the entire development, it starts at Lone Mountain. It curves into a roundabout and then goes along the western boundary of Trilogy West. It actually would be built all the way down to, I think it's Blackstone Drive, which is south of this graphic. It connects up to Ridgeline, basically. And so Shay will be responsible for building out this right-of-way. But in order to sort of minimize that project, worked with city staff. The top graphic is what the arterial section should be, 2 lanes in each direction, a smaller median with bike lanes on either side. We're going to build out just single lanes, and then when there is enough traffic for this roadway. We'll have, there's already going to be a design that will allow the median to be improved, and they'll be no closer to the residents on our side or the Trilogy West side. So with that, I'll close and be happy to answer any questions. But again, we started from the beginning of designing this site to fit in with the neighborhood. We provided buffers. We provided lower densities from pre-app all the way till now. We've been consistent and transparent with our neighborhood outreach, not only with Kyle Moyer's office and all their folks and reaching out to all the emails and phone calls, but having those 2 open houses where we really engage with the neighbors. We've been methodical in evaluating how to do our project. We didn't try to rush it. We started at the beginning of the year. It's now the end of the year. And so this will take us into next year before we're considered for approval. And bottom line, we feel we could be addressed a lot of the concerns. We may not have addressed all the concerns. You may hear some more tonight, but we feel like we've taken the steps to address most of the concerns that we've heard. With that, I'd be happy to close. Respectfully request a positive recommendation to the City Council.
Let me turn my mic on. There we go. Well, thank you, sir. A very in-depth overview on this project. Don't leave us yet. I do know that my commissioners have some questions and some clarification needed. I'll go ahead and start on this side. Come right back to you, Commissioner Cottrell. So we'll start at the end. Commissioner Gaynor.
Oh, no, you can. Thank you, Madam Chair. You can start.
There we go. Commissioner Cottrell. Let's go. There we go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you for your presentation as well. I had read through, and I know there's a lot of citizen comments in here, and a few of them actually mention some density numbers that are different than what you have presented here, 4, 4.5. I just wanted, could you comment on that? You said in your presentation that this is similar to what you've always presented. Was there any presentation in the past that was different that you changed?
There may there may have been a chair and Commissioner Cottrell. There may have been from this plan here. Now this is actually only shows up at 645 units, but no. So there's been never any major changes to our land plan. There were some. We worked with staff. We had 3 reviews where we worked with staff on some realigning some roads and things, and lots moved around. But these densities have pretty much remained consistent throughout our process.
Okay, just wanted to get your feedback there. And I also see, and this is my second question, one of the stipulations is a request for a revision to the traffic report. And so since there was also a lot of comments about traffic, could you maybe chime in on what those revisions, if this is a staff request on the traffic report? Do you know which intersections were analyzed, how far did you go, things like that?
Sure. I think the changes just deal with some semantics. I think there's some further analysis, and I can't really point, but on this graphic, it's the intersection on the east end of our proposal where it says 3.8 DU and 2.8 DU. That intersection, I think, is there's a failure going northbound from Westland. At Westland and Lone Mountain, and I think it's probably school traffic that creates that. And I think staff touched on that where there's a potential consideration of a traffic signal there in the future. Other than that, our traffic study had a level of service D or greater that were not creating issues for surrounding roads. So that's why the 135th Avenue alignment and its construction doesn't require the full build out at this point, because we're building, your general plan has designated this area for a higher density. We're building on a lower density.
Okay. And then the last related to traffic also, I'm trying to get your area there. Everything basically west of 135th, all of those homes must exit through that roundabout. Is that correct? There is not a second point of access to any of those homes? Do you have emergency access even for those?
So, yeah, so again, I wish there was a point area, but basically you'll have access down to Dixletta. We'll have to build the Dixletta alignment half street. So anybody that is in this sort of southern block, whether north of the Wash or south of the Wash, they'll have the ability to come out that driveway in Dixletta.
Okay,
head down
Dixletta has an
135th
access.
Avenue, head down to Ridgeline, and then head back into the city that way. So there's options for not only our residents to use that, but the surrounding residents also.
Okay, I didn't see a little star on your traffic map for an access point down there, so
Okay.
okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cottrell. We have Vice Chair Villasenor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. A couple questions. For the homes, they're for sale, correct?
Correct.
Not for rent. Are you going to be including any multi-generational sites?
Chair, Commissioner Villasenor, I don't believe so. I think it's just going to be standard, single-family, not age restricted.
No, I mean an opportunity for multi-generational living. So mother-in-law suites, that sort of thing.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think it's super popular right now. It's important. Will there be, speaking of the home designs, is there a cohesive plan so that the homes are restricted somewhat or at least blend in with the area? Has that been given consideration?
Yeah, I'm not aware of the platting process. They have us in the zoning process. The platting process has been submitted. I'm assuming they're submitting home designs. I'm assuming they're meeting the city's residential design guidelines. But I don't have those or any visuals of those this evening.
Construction noise and dust. I know that was a concern for the community. Is there a plan in place to manage that?
Yeah, I think that the Shea has experience in this area, and that they built Trilogy West. They're going to have the regular contact. They're going to do the regular county spraying for dust. They're going to have the information on the construction fences for contacts. They'll have the rollouts and the rocks for tracking out mud or anything like that. So they'll meet all the city's guidelines for construction.
Okay, and there will be a phone number listed for residents to call if
Correct.
there's an issue.
Correct.
My last question is, you will comply with the dark sky, I'm assuming?
Yes, we will.
Okay, great.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Villasenor. I know we have Commissioner Gaynor as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'll make it quick because I'd like to hear the other side also. But the city mentioned something that's related to their ability to communicate with schools and what those limits are. Could you share what you did to communicate with the schools in the region?
Thank you. I was going to start my presentation off with that because we had some discussion on that. But Chair, Commissioner Gaynor, we met with the Peoria Unified School District. They have sent us an agreement. We've sent the agreement to the clients. It's a rooftop agreement fee. They have to pay a certain amount. It's $1,250 per rooftop. So if this zoning case does get approved and they do go through with the planning process, that agreement will have to get memorialized, and that money will end up at the school district. They did not indicate there were overcrowding. Let me restate that. They indicated that there's overcrowding, but they didn't indicate that our development was anything that they weren't already expecting.
Okay, thank you. And then you mentioned, of course, we have Shea Homes and the other builders. How many of these builders have already built in this region, in this vicinity?
I believe they all have. I believe they all have a footprint here in the West Valley.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question for staff. Actually, a clarification. When I first started doing this 18 years ago, I was always confused about what you could do on state land. So you mentioned it very softly today. You mentioned it a couple times, but you mentioned it softly. Could you clarify, is state land protected land?
Commissioner Gaynor, state land, it is trust land that is held by the state to be sold to beneficiaries or sold for the benefit of beneficiaries. So it's not protected land. It's actually intended for economic gain for the state and their beneficiaries. The trust land that you would potentially consider as recreational or protected land, theoretically, I think is Bureau of Land Management, which is a different type of trust land. Lori covered it pretty in depth with the last presentation related to state land, but no, it's not open space protected.
Okay.
Lori, do you want to add any more? Sorry, I stumbled through that.
Chair, Commission, as Sarah is alluding to, the very mission of state land is to hold trust in perpetuity until it has reached market value, and therefore it is obligated to sell off or lease land for development for the sole purpose of the beneficiaries, of which there are 13, Common Core being the largest one. So that is how the state funds public education in that regard. State land has been in existence prior to even statehood. It is regulated by both federal and state regulations, so it does supersede Arizona being Arizona to some degree. So in no way, shape, or form, and that is a common misconception that we continue to hear and try to educate folks over time, state land should never be considered as open space. When development occurs, the city has regulations in place, such as our DLCO, Desert Conservation Lands Ordinance, and our open space regulations, that you will find the protected corridors, the hillsides, et cetera. So there will be open space within state land. However, state land in and of itself should be considered developable area as private property. Similar to private property, it just has a unique disposition from a regulatory standpoint. So hopefully that puts a little finer point on it for you.
No, yeah, thank you. And I don't have any further questions. I really think I would love to hear what the rest of the guests are gonna share.
Likewise, I really would like to hear the residents as well. Commissioner Gaynor, I agree. Thank you so much, Deputy Director Deaver. We have one more question actually from Commissioner Cottrell coming, so go ahead, Commissioner.
Follow up for staff. Thank you, Ms. Dirks. The wildlife corridor on that wash, could you outline what the city's requirements are when it's categorized as a wildlife corridor? What does the developer have to do?
So the requirements for protected washes is associated with the flow of a wash. So I think it's 600 CFS is the requirement for the wash protection. I don't know why I'm spacing them, but it's 2550.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Cottrell. So the designations within the Desert Lands Conservation Overlay is at 700 CFS cubic feet per second for the water flow within the wash. That's designated as a protected wash. So that's something that we have specific guidance on as far as what the limitations are and what can occur with that wash. In those instances, it would be a protected buffer of 25 feet on the perimeter of that wash, and that's designated based on the floodplain, and we coordinate with our site development or engineering division in order to coordinate, okay, where is the establishment of that floodplain, and that's where we take that 25-foot protection area from, and that's on both sides of the wash. Okay. So that's intended to not only provide for wildlife corridors, but really to function as an open space and wash preservation area so that we have, maintenance of those natural features that occur within the desert.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Commissioner Cottrell. I know that we have some residents with us, and they've so gracefully sat through all these presentations. I know they've been waiting to speak. So I'll go ahead and what I will do, just so that we can speed it up, I know it's been an hour, I will go ahead and call up 2 residents at a time. That way there can be 1 resident in queue and you can speak as well. And so what I'll do right now is I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. We have Ms. Holly Hart, and then I have Mr. McAllister. Thank you. And then Ms. Hart, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. You'll have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Am I supposed to hit this? Or you? Oh, it's already going. My name's Holly Hart. I live in a Trilogy. I'm on 13334 West Montensoro. We have a unique situation that needs your consideration, please. We will have 2 developments representing 2 lifestyles. One is residential with children, and the other is an established retirement gated community. For them to coexist, privacy and separation is of utmost importance. I have 2 requests. A landscaped fence line has been proposed between the 2 developments. That's not enough opportunity for privacy or continuity of the existing wall that's on our western property lines. Instead, we do request a wall which is already established on the 134, 135th Street western border. Again, considering the need for coexisting between the two distinctly different communities, setback of which was 60, the staff presented a 60-foot and the representatives represented a 65-foot setback. We're still finding this too close considering the noise and privacy issues, and we request a further setback. Next, at the meeting, November 24th, the meeting at Trilogy, Bill Laley, the developer's representative, remarked that their development at their expense would ensure that the perimeter bordering Trilogy would be isolated in such a fashion that Trilogy would remain a gated community with no access points from their community into ours. We need to prevent any crossover. But we'd like to see the developer's plans in writing to see how they want to achieve this goal. Again, we would request a wall rather than a landscape fence, but we do need to see how they will maintain their subdivisions so that they can't cross over into our gated community. The walls were established on the west side of Trilogy property next to the proposed 135th Street. We are looking for continuity throughout the development and request a wall on the northern perimeter in the plans to secure Trilogy. In reviewing the latest plat lines that came out 2 days ago, the Lennar homes will be on the smallest lots of the 3 builders. In this good, better, best scenario, the Lennar homes will be on the good category. Their lots are proposed to be 45 feet wide versus the Trilogy lots that they're up against are 50 to 70. This is the inference here that the Trilogy homes will be backed up to the homes valued at the lower value or standard. We would like to see that the neighborhood maintains similar character and parallel Trilogy standards. The lots off of Lone Mountain are proposed to be at 70 feet. The lots off 135th are proposed to be 60 to 80 feet in width, and the lots adjacent to the homes on Montensor are proposed to be at 45. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hart. We appreciate it. Thank you. We have Mr. McAllister. Thank you.
If it would be possible, could you pull up the slide from the staff presentation called the height
Mr.
restriction
McAllister,
exhibit?
please state your name and your address for the record.
Yes, my name is Greg McAllister, and I'm at 30534 North 134th Avenue in Peoria.
Thank you, sir.
Do you have the height restriction exhibit? There was another one before that. Yeah, anyway, thank you. I urge the commission to require Shea and its developers to limit the height on the lots directly bordering parcel C48, all of them, to 1 story, not merely those that border Montensoro Lane. If you look at the layout of the lots, there are approximately 18 45-foot lots that I would describe as stacked against the north boundary of parcel C48. Shea has made a concession to limit 9 of those houses to 1 story, but that would leave 9 more lots to the west with no height restriction. And the height restriction will limit the view of more than just the houses on Montensoro Lane. And contrary to Shea's presentation, I do believe that the difference between 25 and 30 feet is perceptible to human vision. Shea is saying they wish to leave the choice to the buyer, but in fact the choice of the buyer is going to be highly governed by choices that Shea and the developers have already made to limit the width of the lots to 45 feet. The great likelihood is, if it's buyer's choice, it will be 2-story. And I believe that limiting the height of the houses is in everyone's interest. From the standpoint of the new neighborhood, it would provide a greater harmony between Trilogy and the new neighborhood. From the standpoint of Trilogy, it would help preserve our views to the extent possible. And from the standpoint of Shea, it would help preserve the brand that they've built up in the Trilogy properties. So I think that Shea and its developers should readily agree to extend the 1-story limit to all of those 18 lots that border parcel C48. So for all of these reasons, I believe that the single-story restriction should be extended to the full width of that parcel too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. McAllister. I will call up the next few speakers. I have, I believe, Mr. Raymond, or is it Mrs. Raymond? Miss. Okay, thank you, Ms. Raymond, and thank you for so gracefully skipping and standing in line with your fellow neighbor. I see we have Ms. Linda Simpson, and then I believe we have Lynn, and you all are going to have to help me here because I want to say your name correct. We have Mrs. and Mr. Craig. I think it's good braids, but I'm not sure. So when you get here, please let me know. The Mr. and Mrs. Linda and Craig, and we'll start with you, Ms. Simpson. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Linda Simpson. I live at 13394 Montensoro Lane. I just want to clarify a couple of things that Kurt had alluded to. One, you may wonder why so many of Estancia residents are here. We're not grumpy old people. We were sold our homes by Shay. We all paid a premium for the lot and the views and the lifestyle we have. Feel a little bit duped, and it goes to, and it's not any of your responsibility, but the state land purchase is for the highest and best use of the land, and it's a bidding process. Shay had already had a joint venture signed with Lennar Homes, which is smaller homes, higher density, and Toll Brothers. So they were the only ones who bid on the property. If 3 developers were bidding on it, we probably would have had more money for the beneficiaries that all of us as residents want to have. So if we feel a little angst there, that's why. What I want to address is, first of all, I fully understand that we need to integrate residential and economic benefits. I was well aware when I signed my purchase, state land. I understand how the state land process works. It was agricultural land that was leased to Bonai, so I followed all that, saw the state land sold. So I understand this has to happen. But we also need to protect our wildlife and plant flora and fauna around there. And we can do the minimum required, or we have the opportunity to do what we should be doing. 24% of state land resides in Peoria. That's all there's left. So how we handle this is going to be important going forward. So my concern is with the rezoning recommendation is the lack of thought being given to balancing urban development with the wildlife and the plant preservation and the proposed pad as it stands. I do agree we've had a lot of good dialogue back and forth. We did invite Shay to 2 community meetings we held at Vistancia, and they were kind enough to come and to listen, so that was great. We did not distribute any plan documents that were distributed and were approved for distribution, so I also wanted to clarify that. The most important part for me is the Track K homes, the Lennar homes, are the most dense of the entire subdivision, and if you look at the density of that home builder, it goes up much more than 5. It's 6 point some odd homes per acre. So that's the one that's backing directly onto parcel 48. So there's been a bit of picking and choosing of how those densities are being reported, and I do appreciate that you've read the packages and have that insight. So that's where the angst is. That density there is so high. Why is that important? Because there are 2 washes. There's the 2 404 washes that are federally regulated, but there's also what they call a drainage channel, which is, for lay people, another wash. I have videotape of horned owls, coyotes, javelinas, the donkeys, hares, bobcats, walking between the drainage ditch, along the back fence, and into the 404 wash. So it's not... Thank you.
Okay, I was going to let you finish your sentence, but yeah, time is there. Thank you so much, Ms. Simpson. Thank you. And I just want to say, I thank you all for being here. I hate the timer too, because you all have so graciously waited. And so thank you. And I duly noted your comment to the wildlife. Thank you. I have, I believe right here, I don't know if they're here anymore because this was for the other case. And they said it may not be, but Mrs. Linda and Mr. Craig, good braids? Okay, I think they left in another case. And then I think this one also may have left. I have a Mrs. Janine Franklin. Okay, perfect. That was for another case. All right. Well, I don't think we have any. Did we have any new ones that came in, Ms. Duffy? Speaker request forms? Okay. Well, no. Well, thank you, residents. I will now close the public hearing. I'll just say this. I hate 3 minutes because it's so little after you waited an hour. And so I just want you all to know we're duly noting the comments that are being made regarding neighborhood character preservation, as well as some of the wildlife and the things that were mentioned tonight. So thank you, and thank you for working with us through this process. I know that there were some commissioners that may have some comments and some questions, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Commissioner. So Commissioner Cottrell.
Can we give the applicant a chance to respond to some of those?
I'm certainly open to as well. And then Commissioners, do you all have questions before the applicant comes back?
I do. In this session right now, you close public comment, but I can request one of the speakers to come back up and answer my questions, correct?
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought we were all done, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to be a bit out of order. Let's refer.
Madam Chair, you have closed the public
Public
hearing portion.
Okay.
That would cease the comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry about that, Commissioner Gaynor. I didn't know that you had questions for the for one of the residents. I know usually we let them come up.
Okay.
Is there a comment that you'd like to make? Because I would like you to address that. Absolutely.
I have a question for the attorney,
Okay.
for the city attorney.
Okay, perfect. Well, that is something that we can do.
Yeah, I just want to ask, can the chair reopen and close?
Commissioners, I don't think this microphone's working. Commissioners.
Speak
Go ahead and scream.
Just yell.
Chair, Commissioner Gaynor, unfortunately, no, after the public hearing has been closed, cannot be reopened.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry about that, Commissioner. I know that we said that we had some comments, Commissioner Cottrell. I didn't know that you had a comment for one of our residents, because usually they don't come back up. But I do think if you want to make a comment or anything that was on your mind.
No, I had a question, so,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I had several questions, actually. Can I ask questions of the applicant?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to bring the applicant back up, and so before we do that, any commissioners had any questions or comments before, Vice Chair? Nope? Okay. Well, my sincere apologies, but
That's
I
okay.
do hope that we can go ahead and speak with the applicant. I know that usually we don't do that, but I do like to make sure that residents are addressed and that anything comes back. I just didn't know that any commissioners wanted to have a call back, because usually we close it immediately after. So
Yeah,
thank you.
And I guess I will make a comment. Just let's make sure we consider the comments from the residents that came up and mention their concerns. And maybe I'd like to say this publicly, that when we give this much time to an applicant and a developer, then we need to rethink about how much time we're providing to the folks that come out. And just be more aware. I'll jump in next time and make sure you don't close the hearing. My apologies.
No. I certainly agree, and definitely, I echo those sentiments. I said
Nobody's
the same
fault.
thing. I hate the 3 minutes. I hate the timer, so I was not going to shut anybody down. I was going to let them finish, but preferably we can get some of the other questions. I know that we had some questions for the applicant, and we can move forward. But I would like for you to address any questions or comments that may have came from the residents. I know.
Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, we could do something a little out of order where I get asked the question, I go back and ask that person and stand back up and provide you the answer.
You know, I'm completely okay with being out of order, but you see, I'm looking to the right and I'm looking to the left. I'm with you all. You residents, like I said, you all waited an hour, and so if we can find a loop around, like, let's do that. Is that a possibility? I'm looking to the city attorney. If we are asking a question, the applicant is up right now, which I did formally ask to speak. We're trying to do it for you all, residents. We really are.
Madam Chair, you're putting me on the spot a little bit, but I mean, it's really at the discretion of yourselves and the applicant. If you're both willing to do that, then proceed.
So I'll ask the question
Go ahead.
of you, Kurt. Just would you confer with the lady that just spoke and just ask her to finish her thought and come back and share it with us? Since, yeah.
This is wonderful. This is what I like to see. Thank you, Commissioner Gaynor. There we go. There we
Thank
go.
you, Mr.
Chair
Jones.
and Commissioner Gaynor, I don't like the answer.
Okay, you might get some points for working with the residents.
You
might get some
volunteered.
points here.
You
But I'll give you
volunteered.
the answer. They would like you to recommend possible Commissioner option D, as in David.
Okay.
So that was her point.
Well, thank you for finishing that. I just want to make sure we.
Okay,
we
so
have that. Anyhow, you're gonna comment, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, you're gonna comment, and then I have a couple questions for you.
Thank you.
Real quickly, Chair, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, thanks for allowing me to get back up. And I'm not going to over rebut any of the statements. We're committed to, there was comments from Ms. Hart with regards to the setback not being large enough. We committed to greater setbacks than Trilogy did when they designed their subdivision. We're committed to doing a salvage plan and putting some mature landscaping in between the lots that are adjacent to Montesoro. With regards to all the lots that are adjacent to, if you looked at our land plan, we specifically offset our row of lots adjacent to Montesoro so that we wouldn't have this single story issue. We wanted to make sure that the folks that did back up to our lots that did back up to theirs, they're technically not backing up to theirs. They're 60 plus feet away. We committed to those as single story, and that's in our PAD zoning request. Finally, there was a mention of Lennar and Lennar's quality and so forth. Lennar is also building on 80-foot lots in this subdivision. So yes, they're building in the 45s that were mentioned by one of the residents, but they're also building a quality product in this, and we don't take those comments lightly. And finally, again, we don't agree with the last speaker's request with regards to a continuance. We feel like we've addressed a lot of the issues out there. Are they 100% dead on and satisfying everyone? No, but I think we created a plan that really fits in well in this neighborhood, and we're going to be proud of it. Thank you.
Mr. Jones,
thank
don't
you.
get up yet because you might get.
Yes, please come back. I was going to say the same thing because now I have another question. Okay. I'm actually very happy that we can work around this, but my question, is really going to be to the residents too, and you might have to, walk it on there. You might get some points for this. Now, let's say option D, a continuation. What would be able to be addressed in, that continuation in that time? What the residents like to see in that continuation time? Are you able to walk back there and come right back and see, possibly? Just want to know. Just want to know. She did say this is what she said.
I told you I would, so I'll do it.
There we go. Okay, only one person because we can't have everybody jump in him. Okay, no, it's okay. You're good. Thank you.
So, Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, it appears that they want everything adjacent to the property to be single story. And then something with regards to a wall that blocks off a lot of stuff, which we don't think we can do per the DLCO.
Okay. So my understanding is they would like a continuation to see if there would be some type of agreement that could be made between the residents, the developer, to have some more adjustments made to the project, is what I'm understanding.
Correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right. I'm so happy we were able to, and, thank you, Commissioner Gaynor. We're definitely slipping out because, we have so little time, but thank you so much to the applicant. Do we have any more questions for the applicant, Commissioners? Commissioner Cottrell.
So and thank you, with regard to that wall, so can you verify, I know Trilogy is gated, that with this development, is there the ability for somebody to walk from this development into the Trilogy, or will it all be fenced and secured so that cannot occur?
Chair and Commissioner Cottrell, I believe we have to keep the wash corridors open, so there's no walls that would sort of, for lack of a better word, upside down, L off our open space to their open space. Those corridors have to maintain open. On the southern corridor, that wash has to stay open. The trails will connect to their trails, so those will be the only openings. Other than that, that's desert, and probably not a lot of people walking out in the desert.
I was expecting you to say that, but thank you.
Thank you.
And the second one, she mentioned the density of 6.0, and I think I know the answer to this too, but can you comment on that? You obviously are listing a density of 3.2 3.8 or 3.5 in that area. Can you clarify the distinction?
Yeah, I don't know where they got their math. I can't verify or dispute it, but no, it's not accurate compared to the plans the city staff analyzed and what we've analyzed.
So your 3.5 is the gross, including all those open space, I'm assuming?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have one more question.
All right, thank
Madam
you so
Chair.
much, Commissioner Cucharel. I'll hand it back
Madam
to
Chair,
Commissioner
thank you.
Gaynor.
Yeah, my original question that I wrote down and I wanted to make sure I asked was, can you share, not all of them, but share some of the major concessions that you have agreed to after this year of working this project and working with the community?
Chair and Commissioner Gaynor, I think that's a great question. Like I said from the start, we've provided a land plan that is under the density of the general plan. So someone mentioned that, one of the residents mentioned that, state land is highest, best value. It's a lot of money. So technically, you would think that developers would come in and put as much density as they could that's consistent with the city's general plan. Shea didn't do that. They've come up with a land plan that provided buffers from day one, from the pre-app up until now. We further defined those buffers and increased them so that they were greater than our adjacent neighbors. We've come up with the single-story stipulations. If you looked, and Sarah had it in her presentation, the lot sizes in all the surrounding developments are lower than our lot sizes at 40 feet in width. Now, they didn't develop out them, so maybe there are some elsewhere in the subdivision, but not adjacent to ours, they didn't. But they have a lower lot width than ours. We have a higher lot width. We have committed to stipulating single story. We have a greater lot sizes than some of these surrounding developments also. All of the surrounding developments have the availability to do two-story homes. Whether they did them or not, that's not the discussion tonight, but they have the ability to do them. We're restricting our certain lots to do that. We felt that we've answered a lot of their questions. I think in the best case scenario, if I was on that side, I'd ask for that and more. But in reality, I think we created a good neighborhood here. I think what sometimes you do with these buffers, when you create these greater buffers, you're then distancing neighbors from neighbors, and you're creating these little enclaves that you don't really creating an overall city. So I think our buffers are appropriate, but they're not extreme.
Thank you for that,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Jones. I agree. I think you've done a great job. I really appreciate when a developer and a community work together, and I know that you can't come to 100% agreement, but at least you work through this, and it's not necessarily have a medium, but it's definitely a greatly negotiated outcome. So I appreciate that. And I think I'm ready to make a motion, but if there's further questions, I'm fine with it.
No, commissioners, are we all clear? No, thank you for that, Commissioner Gaynor, and thank you for the applicant. Even in this moment, I've seen you going above and beyond, but I just really thank the residents for just being here and trying to work through this and share their voice. If we, Vice Chair Villasenor, all clear? Okay.
I have a comment.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment. I will be supportive of this case, but I really want to congratulate the neighborhood. I know it may not feel like you're getting everything that you want, but I am seriously impressed with the way that what the developer has agreed to do in terms of the single story, the buffers, the 90 acres of open space, the wash. I mean, I share similar sentiment that I would like more open space and more protection. I think we would all like that, but we don't own the land. So I'm also equally impressed with this development group and your willingness to work with the community. I think it's really impressive. At the end of the day, I feel like this will be a very nice blend to what's already there. It is consistent with what is already in place. In fact, it's going to be less dense than what it could be. Again, I think that is a testament to the neighborhood and as well as the developer wanting to fit into this area. And that's important, I think, to Peoria residents. To maintain the open spaces and the trails and things like that. I as well always want more trails and open spaces, but I'm very grateful when a developer goes the extra step to make sure that those buffers and protections are in place. So again, I just want to commend the neighborhood on the wins that you are getting. I've been doing this for a long time, and you're getting a lot of wins. And I appreciate both sides for their cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Villasenor. I know we're going to move and, we're going to make a motion, but I will tell you this is a hard one for me. That's why I wanted clarification on what, option D possibly could provide, what was possible and what was not possible, and, really thinking about, I see this too. Me, my husband, and our children, Peoria is all they know, and we chose Peoria because we did like that it was quieter, than surrounding cities, and it did have more open space. That's some things that we really loved as a family, and so this is just hard because our city is growing, and so developers are looking at a place to house individuals while trying to work with what is really important to me, preserving our neighborhood characters, because when people come and they live in a city, that's what they're looking at, right? You find a place that you feel like this feels like home, and you want to preserve that. And so I echo my commissioner. I don't feel like there's enough time to talk through all of that. That's why we have outreach, we have these community meetings, but this is a hard one for me as well. Also knowing the fact that our city is growing, and it's growing so quick, which has developers looking at a place for housing for people, and we're still working through that, trying to. But I know that we've sat on this for a while. I know the commissioners are ready to move forward. I want to thank all of the residents for being here, sitting here, working with the developers, sending letters, coming here to share your voice regarding your neighborhood and community. And, we're going to go ahead and move forward, but I just want you all to know you all's time is appreciated. We're sitting here, we're volunteers, so we're not getting paid for this. We know that it can be long meetings, and so thank you for being here, and thank you for coming to advocate for your neighborhood, for your home, for your neighbors. I appreciate that. All right, commissioners, I know that we didn't have any more final questions, comments. We had already closed the public hearing, and what that means is we're going to go ahead and move forward. And so, commissioners, I'm going to ask if we have a motion, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I have a motion. And I want to just reiterate, appreciate so much that the neighbors have coming out here and spending your time. I mean, we signed up for this, right? We raised our hand and signed up for this. And so I'm not complaining about being here. I'd be here for another couple hours if I need to. I've done it before. We'll do it again. So this is a pleasure to serve the city, and just thank you so much for your civility and your knowledge and everything that you've done in your community. So I'd like to make a motion, and I want to make sure I make the motion correctly. So I'd like to recommend approval of Z25-04.
Subject
per city council, subject to conditions of approval of Exhibit 1.
Okay. Commissioners, we need a motion to move this forward. A second, sorry. Sorry, I misspoke. I was reading this. We have properly moved. Now we would need a second to move this forward.
I'll second.
Okay, so properly moved by Commissioner Gaynor and seconded by Vice Chair Villasenor. Go ahead, then let's move forward to a vote now, commissioners. Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. All right. Thank you, commissioners. I know that we had two other items, but the staff has asked for the next two items to be moved to the next available meeting in January. So both items will not be up for discussion or action today, which will be item 4R and item 5R, and both of those are Trefizio. And so we will have those in the new year, which will be January 8, 2026. Thank you so much. We'll now move forward to any call to the public. So we'll go there, open it. I'll open it. Commissioner Gaynor, do you have anything? don't want to close this. Okay, okay, there we go. Hey, I gotta make sure. And now I close the public hearing. I know that we moved everything, so we're moving pretty quickly. We'll go ahead and move forward. Reports from staff. Planning Deputy Director Deaver, please take it away.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, we are upon the holiday season. This is our one and only meeting within December. So based on availability, we are canceling. We're not going to be here January 1st. We hope you all have a happy new year in that regard. We will see you back here January 8th for a special meeting. We do have Treviso and a couple other matters before commission at that time. That will be our only meeting for January. So as you see, February 5th and February 19th, we have items on the docket. At the first meeting in January, we will be providing you an updated meeting schedule. We do appreciate the team behind us hanging in here. Council chambers are taking a little bit longer while we had anticipated maybe February. We will be in here a little bit longer until May. So we'll provide meeting dates and location changes for 2026 with January 8th, along with election of officers. So with that, I do wish commission safe and happy holidays, and we will see you back January 8th. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Deputy Director Deaver. I just want to say it is the end of the year. We've had a year of, being here serving the city, and I just want to thank staff for just being here a year through all meetings, ready to report, doing it with a smile, doing it with joy. And so, truthfully, it's been a wonderful year, and so I'm wishing you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year already, and then we'll see you all in the new year. All right. I think we are moving forward to commission updates, and I don't believe we have any commission updates today, surprisingly. I know I usually do have them. And so with that said, I will go ahead and adjourn our meeting.